Radio, keeping you informed.
Demerara and Essequibo 99.1 FM.
Burby's 99.5 FM. Kaieteur Radio.
Hello and welcome to your news at noon right here on Kaieteur Radio. Before we get to our top stories that we are following, let's get to the front page comment brought to you by Kaieteur News. The Ali administration has sold out. President Ali appears powerful when talking but is weak in delivering. The permit for Kaieteur Field Development Plan has been approved after a record-breaking review which turned out to be a charade and a cheap joke. Guyana accepted, without objection or a fight, another 6 for a 9. The wool is now being pulled over our faces. This grand betrayal is being garnished with talk about hefty fines for environmental wrongdoing. Instead of using Kaieteur as leverage to obtain a better deal, our leaders have once again conspired to shortchange our people. It is yet another link in the chain of treachery. Yet again, they have sold us out. All over the world, former colonial societies are agitating for a review of unfair terms in agreements signed with oil companies. Guyana had signed the worst deal ever, and the calls were vociferous for a renegotiation to secure a better deal, which would allow us, our children and grandchildren, to have a decent life free from want. The Ali administration was presented with a global opportunity to make this happen. Instead of grasping this opportunity, his government has instead given its stamp of approval to the ugliest oil deal ever signed. This decision by the Irfan Ali administration represents the ultimate betrayal. It is unredeemable and an unforgivable act. It smacks of utter disregard for the Guyanese people. It is sordid and sickening. The Guyanese people were not asking for much. All they wanted was a higher rate of loyalty, less in terms of reclaimable expenses and greater transparency. These hopes for a better deal were dashed. The Irfan Ali administration has failed the people. His government has sold out the people's birthright. And now for the top stories we are tracking. CJIA's Chinese contractor denies abusing duty-free concessions, insists it was guided by GRA at all times. Over 100 witnesses to testify against Mingo. Harman wants president to release all agreements. Department of Citizenship rented one tent for $10.5 million, and president announces terms and conditions review of existing civil works contracts. Stay tuned to stay informed. And now for the news in detail. China Harbor Engineering Company Limited, the Chinese contractor that is under pressure with the $150 million Chedijagan International Airport expansion project, has denied abusing its duty-free concessions. It was reported in 2015 that the contractor, which did work on the Movie Town project, was abusing its duty-free concessions privileges by using its equipment for the airport project on other construction sites. Staffers and others affiliated with the company had attested to this, and when the initial story was reported in 2015, the company never refuted it. In a statement Thursday night, however, the contractor broke its silence after another story on the issue was reported on Kaieteur Radio and Kaieteur News. The statement said that the company has at all times complied with the laws of Guyana, and in instances when it was necessary, they were guided by GRA and local auditing firms and accountants. In other news, over 100 witnesses are expected to testify against Region 4 returning officer Claremont Mingo when the trial begins for the misconduct in public office charges. The accused, along with his lawyer Nigel Hughes, made their second appearance yesterday in the Georgetown Magistrates Courts before the Chief Magistrate Anne McLennan. When the matter was called, Prosecutor Tariq Mohammed from the chambers of DPP informed the court that the prosecution will be making partial disclosure of statements. Prosecutor Mohammed also made an application for summary disposal of the charges that would allow Mingo to plead to the charges since they would no longer be indictable. However, an objection was made by Hughes on the grounds of the possibility of more charges being made against his client. They are expected to make their next appearance on November 16, 2020 for that charge. In other news, opposition leader Joseph Harmon revealed yesterday that he wrote to the president, Dr. Irfan Ali, requesting documents substantiating all agreements the government has entered into since assuming office on August 2nd. Harmon said several reports in the local and international media prompted this request. When noting his letter to Ali, Harmon was responding to a question about the oil sector. Harmon said that he is willing to work with his new government, but that it appears to be acting like a know-it-all government. In other news, the Department of Citizenry under the previous APNU-AFC administration was paying $1.5 million a month to rent a single tent for their office. This and other concerning details were shared by the Minister of Parliamentary Affairs and Governance, Gail Teixeira, on Monday. The minister indicated that due to COVID-19 and social distancing protocols, the department thought it necessary to retain the services of Star Party Rentals to lease the tent at the beginning of March 2020. When we visited the department's office on Shiv Chandrapal Drive yesterday afternoon, it discovered that the tent was an ordinary one. In totality, the previous government would have expended $10.5 million of taxpayers' monies to rent the single tent for 7 months. Similarly sized and quality tents could be sourced online for $300,000, one-fifth of the cost for the monthly rental. Minister Teixeira noted that the contract for that rental service will be terminated at the end of the month. In other news, President Irfan Ali has asked the Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs Anil Nandlal to review the terms and conditions of existing civil works contracts. The head of state made this announcement yesterday while he emphasized that such action was necessary to address poor performance, substandard work, and delays in the timely completion of projects. President Ali noted too that while efforts are being made to strengthen and build local capacity, quality and value for money will not be sacrificed. As such, he maintained that in every community where projects are executed, the National Democratic Council should have a copy of the Bill of Qualities and Scope of Work. You are tuned into Kaieteur Radio 99.1 and 99.5 FM, and this is your news at noon. Coming up after the break, $650 million in airport equipment yet to be delivered. Minister Barrett says we are hopeful of signing the Payara agreement today, and hospital developer joins in returning controversial Ogle lands to NISL. Meanwhile, after 5 years, Granger's $90 million model farm reaped $1.4 million in produce. Meanwhile, quarantine man dies from COVID and isolation facility in Burpees. Do stay tuned. Welcome back. Let us continue with the news. According to the Minister of Parliamentary Affairs and Governance, Gail Teixeira, some $650 million worth in equipment to upgrade the Chedi Jagan International Airport is yet to be delivered by the company awarded to do so. This was shared by the minister on Monday during the consideration of budget estimates. Opposition member Dr. Karen Cummings had asked why the hefty $711 million had been allocated in 2019 for furniture and equipment under the Citizenry Department. Teixeira explained that apparently this number, which is large in sum, relates to equipment that was ordered to do with the upgrading of the CJIA immigration passport arrangement for passport issuance, border scanners, and so forth. She indicated that $650 million of the $711 was ordered from Canadian Bank Note to build the airport's capacity in a modern and efficient way. The smaller amount of $100 million, the minister noted, was spent on support equipment such as scanners and computers, which arrived in February of this year. In other news, Minister of Natural Resources Vikram Bharat sought to set the record straight on the approval process for ExxonMobil's Payara project, which is expected to produce 220,000 barrels of oil per day once it comes on stream by 2024. The minister said that the government did not give approval for ExxonMobil's Payara project yesterday. However, he did say that they do have a draft agreement and they are hopeful of signing it today. He went on to say that the current agreement has several safeguards in place, two of which include stiff fines for the burning of gas and failure to treat reservoir water before disposing of it into the ocean. Asked for a ballpark figure of the fines, Minister Bharat said that this is still being finalized. He was keen to note, however, that the findings of the Payara Field Development Review would be released next week. And moving on, one day after Navigant builders relinquished 30 acres of lands which were controversially transferred during the elections impasse by the coalition government, another developer has announced intentions to also rescind. Yesterday, Cardiology Services Inc. announced it had since 2017 reached out to NISIL by way of an expression of interest to purchase various lands in Ogle for the purpose of rebuilding a hospital. The company's managing director is well-known cardiologist Dr. Mahendra Karpan. It disclosed that in February of 2020, an agreement of sale was signed. According to the company, given the circumstances surrounding the vesting of the property, it has agreed to rescind the vesting order without prejudice and revert title of the property to NISIL so as to enable the government of Guyana to fulfill its mandate to ensure all lands are reclaimed unimpeded. And moving on, while the previous David Granger-led APNU-AFC regime expended over $90 million to construct a model farm at Fort Wellington, it only managed to rack up $1.4 million in produce over the period of 5 years. That startling revelation was made by Minister of Local Government and Regional Development Nigel Dharamlal during the considerations of the 2020 national budget. The minister said the model farm was a vision by then-President David Granger, using lands Minister Dharamlal said was viciously taken from the farmers at Fort Wellington. The project was labeled under the Regional Democratic Development Program for Region 5. According to Mr. Dharamlal, there is no justification that could be had for such a failed venture. It is now 12 hours 14. Stay tuned. Coming up next is your COVID-19 update. And now for your COVID-19 update. The number of worldwide coronavirus cases, according to Worldometer, has reached 32.8 million, with deaths at 994,743. Recovery cases has reached 24.2 million. The regional distribution of cases in Guyana is as follows. Region 1, 407. Region 2, 32. Region 3, 203. Region 4, 1,224. Region 5, 15. Region 6, 35. Region 7, 284. Region 8, 65. Region 9 347, and Region 10 97. Guyana yesterday marked a record high number of 130 new COVID-19 cases, raising the total number of cases to 2,709. The Ministry of Health's daily dashboard update stated that there are presently 16 persons in the COVID-19 ICU at the Georgetown Public Hospital. 76 persons are in institutional quarantine, 235 are in institutional isolation, and 895 are in approved home isolation. No new deaths have been recorded, keeping the total number of COVID-19 deaths at 73, while there have been a total of 1,490 recoveries. Berbice has recorded another COVID-19 death, reportedly this time of a 34-year-old male from the quarantine who died at an isolation facility in the ancient county. And coming from CNN, the U.S. surpassed 7 million coronavirus cases and recorded at least 203,000 deaths yesterday. Meanwhile, California became the first U.S. state to surpass 800,000 cases. The United States could see an explosion in COVID-19 cases as fall and winter set in, a health expert has warned. Police have told anti-lockdown protesters gathering in central London to maintain social distancing and warned that violence will not be tolerated. The health minister of the Australian state of Victoria has resigned after being blamed for mishandling quarantine hotels. And that's the news of the moment. Remember to get the full details of these stories, pick up a copy of the Kaieteur News. And don't forget, you can catch us on the MyTuner app as well as the Radio Garden app. You can also keep up to date by liking our Facebook page at Kaieteur Radio and subscribing to our YouTube channel, Kaieteur Radio Livestream. Oh,